Alright gamers, well, let's take a look at Streets of Rage 4 on Nintendo Switch. Yep, obviously, you know this is the version I went for because why else? I mean, you can not only play it at home, but also on the go. And also available on PlayStation 4 and Xbox One and so forth. Yep, typical multi-console release, and although there are also physical versions of this game too as well, made for each console, but they weren't out when this game first released digitally. So as you know, I went digital because I wanted to play it as soon as it released. And, well, obviously as you know, it's a sequel to the most beloved Sega Genesis beat-em-up trilogy of all time, so does it hold up as well as those games did? Bet your ass. Well, obviously I was skeptical seeing how Double Dragon got a fourth game called Double Dragon 4, and that one didn't quite turn out as good, so I was kind of scratching my head on this one. But thankfully, after hearing mostly positive reactions, I went ahead and downloaded it when it was on sale. It's around $30, so it may seem a little much, but thankfully, it's got plenty of levels and plenty of stuff to do. Well, obviously it's just a straight-up arcade-style beat-em-up game, select out of several characters, and all I can say is, it's Streets of Rage. Yeah, as you know, Sega doesn't make gaming consoles anymore, so they leave their gaming franchises to other companies, like, well, Nintendo, which is ironic seeing how Nintendo and Sega at one point were big gaming console rivals. But times have changed, obviously. But I would definitely say this one holds up because, well, nothing is more satisfying than beating the crap out of just about any enemy that tries to cross you. Yeah, punch them, do an air kick, and that classic go on top or underneath them, you can pick them up and throw them. Depending on which character you chosen, sometimes you stomp them to the ground. Pick them up and smash them into each other's faces. Throw them into the other enemies that gang up on you. And with the top left button, you could do a sort of backwards punch or kick depending on, once again, which character you selected. Either way, it's useful if you got enemies that are trying to hit you from behind when you got enemies that you're trying to punch from in front of you. And then if all of them are on the same side of you, well, that makes it a hell of a lot easier because then you can just punch them all out. Yeah, sound effects are so awesome. Obviously you get stuff that's laying around, usually that's inside of certain objects, phone booths, cans that are laying around. Each level has its own distinctive characteristics and hazards that can definitely have an effect on you and the enemies that you're trying to take out. So the physical aspects of each environment are definitely present in this game, and it's well balanced. The background and occasionally even the foreground effects look incredible. I can't compliment it any more than that. Yeah, of course, in between levels it's just still image cutaways of the story, and keep in mind, yes, I'm playing the story mode right here, where you can obviously play through each level, and you can quit and start up exactly the level you started in. Unfortunately, there's no checkpoint, so if I quit in the middle of a level, and I come back, well, you'll start that level all over again. And you get a certain amount of lives as expected. Well, depending on what difficulty you're playing it on. Yes, there are several difficulties in this, and as you guess, I'm playing it on the easiest difficulty, and you can get more lives, depending on how many points you rack up, which you get by beating up enemies, and or by collecting items that are usually inside of stuff that you smashed. Like I mentioned, with garbage cans and phone booths and stuff, it's all completely random. Sometimes they'll give you food, which is definitely helpful with refilling your health meter. Yes, you have a health meter on the top here. And as expected, your enemies do too as well. But yes, food is definitely helpful. The turkey fills it up all the way, or chicken, whatever the hell this is. The apple, on the other hand, only gives you a small piece of your health back. And yes, in the options menu, you get a variety of choices of which you want to change both the small and large food to, but the effects don't change. And is it just me, or does every time you pick up a piece of food sound like Pac-Man eating the fruit? Just listen. Yeah, sounds a lot like Pac-Man to me. And the same goes for picking up stars to get your star moves. Okay, yes. The star moves I might as well get out of the way. Each character gets their own particular powerful as move, and I recommend saving these for the boss fight or if you have a gang of powerful enemies surrounding you. But mostly I recommend during the boss fight. Yes, every level ends with a boss fight, no surprise there for a beat-em-up game, nothing out of the ordinary there. And most of the enemies can be pretty easy to take out. Some of them have some pretty long health meters. especially women fighters. Yeah, there's a lot of them in this game, and I'm not gonna lie, majority of the boss fights in this game are not only hard, but majority of them are actually female fighters. Yeah, really, it's no exaggeration there. I should also mention that each character gets a special move attack, which, as you'd expect, drains some of your health every time you use it, so only use it when you really need to. Doesn't obviously do as much damage as a star move, but it is useful though. And also, as I mentioned before, with the breakable objects that give you food and stars, they also give you disposable weapons, which can be useful for taking out enemies, and even enemies themselves can carry them, and if you punch them out, well, they're all yours. And they all come in different sizes too. There's even tasers that usually the cops carry around, and if you beat them up, well, they could be all yours. Which brings me to one trick that all you old school Streets of Rage fans will find interesting. If you get one of these tasers and come across an arcade machine, which are at fixed locations in this game, taser the machine and you get a piece of a retro level. Yeah, it's short, and whether you beat it or not, you still get sent back to the main part of the game, but it's still a great retro nod, one of several in this game to be exact. But getting back to these main familiar weapons almost reminds me of Final Fight a little bit. No? How about this part where you smash up the car? Yeah, the only thing missing is...
oh my god.
Yeah, couldn't resist, right? And as for the remaining retro nods that this game has to the old school titles, you notice there's a rank up system for your profile that you get every time you beat a level. Well, I didn't really understand this at first because, well, it's a beat 'em up game, but I realized every time you reach a certain rank, you unlock an additional character. And not just any character, you unlock an old school character. Not only that, they include most of the moves from the old school titles that they're from, and, well, you do get the stars, but you don't get star moves. Instead, they call for backup. Man, talk about nostalgia overload right there. And of course, when you beat the main story mode of the game, which is what I've been showing you mostly, you get the arcade version of the game unlocked, which is pretty much the story mode, except, well, you have to play through it from beginning to end. Same thing, no different, 12 levels, just no save points. So it obviously does bear a lot more difficulty, and, well, as I mentioned, some of the boss fights can be tough, and especially once you reach the last level. It's like a medieval themed style castle with top of the line surveillance systems. Yeah, pretty cliche villain right there. And the boss is a female fighter, of course, with a sword. And trust me, this bitch does not screw around. You fight her, and I recommend saving up all your power stars and super moves and use as much of them as you possibly can on her. Because this is only the beginning right here, folks. Once you almost barely beat her, which has a little piece of health left, after you beat her, she jumps out, you have to follow her, where she calls on backup, another female fighter with a freaking gun. Are you kidding me? So, try to fight both, but I recommend just fighting one of them, and when one of them goes down, that's just the beginning, again, because then the one that goes down goes into this robotic machine thing with tentacles. Are you kidding me? I didn't really know what to do at first with this machine thing, but I tried taking, obviously, the other fighter down. But I recommend taking the machine thing down. You can do one or the other. But the machine thing, I didn't really know how to do this at first, until I figured out, yeah, you have to take the tentacles down with the right amount of precision. Trust me, this fight does not screw around. Even on the easiest difficulty, I had a rather rough time with this one. But once you beat it, bravo, you beat the main story mode, and this is pretty much what you get on the arcade mode as well, which is even harder. But hey, 12 levels, very fun lengthy adventure. Whether you're playing it on story or arcade mode, or even playing online, yes, you can play online alongside one or two buddies or one or two strangers. Pretty much what I expected out of an online multiplayer co-op version of this game. There's also a battle mode which you can play online as well, which is a one-on-one fight, where your objective is to take out more enemies than your opponent does, and yes, you can even punch out your opponent. That alone makes it worth the while right there. But the one mode of gameplay I really wanted to enjoy in this game, but sadly couldn't, was the boss rush mode. Yeah, you're probably thinking why? Well, simple. It's too freaking hard. And how hard, may you ask? Well, let's try it. 1 life, no do-overs, gotta face off against every boss fight, and survive as long as you can. I couldn't even get past the first boss fight, and you expect me to beat every single boss fight all on 1 life? No do-overs? Are you mad? Ugh. God, this is frustrating. Otherwise, don't let that discourage you. That's the only problem I have with this game. It's a great reboot sequel to one of Sega's most beloved beat-em-up franchises of all time, with some great gameplay mechanics and upgrades that makes it feel familiar but at the same time fresh and original, and any fan of this franchise feel right at home. Even if you don't like some of the newer music the game has, you can even unlock and use in the options menu to play some of the old school music throughout the game as well. I mean, wow. The Genesis certainly does what Nintendo don't, even though ironically this is on a Nintendo console. But yes, fantastic beat-em-up sequel to a great Sega franchise for not only playing at home, if you have it on the Nintendo Switch that is, but also, as I said many times before, we're playing it on the go. So, my final verdict is, rocking the Wii Remote Wii Motion Plus up and the Playwear mode. Trust me, it's classic arcade style fighting at its finest, and it's great to see this franchise get a great revival. So, until next time, keep watching.